Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Bold, Make Waves podcast, a show bringing you inspiring stories of women who are growing and scaling their business. I'm your host, Laura Comark, a website and tech integration specialist who works with online business owners who love their work and not their website. Join me as we have incredible conversations about business, mindset, productivity, and of course, the website and tech behind the business. Let's go ahead and dive in to this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's show. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm Laura Comark, website and tech integration specialist for women who love their work, but not their tech. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Corene Phelps. She is a native Washington, D.C.er because I cannot pronounce Washingtonian. Which is what's actually in the bio, but you'll see that in the show notes. She's an entrepreneur and growth advisor supporting leaders and business owners to reach their maximum potential. Her method takes leaders and teams through a performance training methodology that focuses on empowering individual contributors to drive strategic priorities and tactical implementation in a coordinated, optimized way. She also offers an individual mastermind program that combines mindset training with HRV training, hypnosis, breathwork, and strategic coaching. Her experience spans the healthcare, wellness, fitness, real estate, and mobile to direct-to-consumer technology industries. Corene, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I cannot wait to dive into all of this.
I'm sitting here listening to you read my bio. I'm like, it's really unexciting. Maybe I should, redo that.
I'm very curious. I'm just going to dive right in and just say, I do not know what HRV training is. Can you tell our audience what that means?
Yes, that's like my most favorite thing to talk about, or at least one of them. It's heart rate variability, and heart rate variability is essentially the metric with which it basically it's a big explainer of how your body is responding to stress. And so what the HRV actually means is the space between your heart beats. And we want a large space. We want a lot of oscillation and variation in there. And when we're stressed, it actually becomes very narrow.
Okay. So how did you get started in all this?
Oh my goodness. Well, so my background, I started out in real estate when I graduated from college, but my degree is in nutrition and food science. So I really have a strong foundation and root in health and wellness. And so somewhere in my real estate career, I was like, what the heck are you doing? How did this even happen to you? I don't know if you've ever had that happen where you're like, wait, how did I get here? This wasn't the path that I was supposed to be on. So that was me towards my very late 20s. And I just was like, my job is making me miserable. It's not what I wanted to do. And so I burned it all down and I jumped into health and wellness. And so that's how I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is sort of a hybrid of some things, right? So I taught yoga, Pilates, did nutrition counseling for a long time. And I was always working with high performers, doctors, CEOs, founders, sometimes professional athletes. And what I started to realize is that most of them were coming to me for one thing, but it really wasn't what they were coming to me for. And there's a big piece of this mindset piece behind that. And so I spent a lot of time really finding out how it is that you extract the best out of every person, meaning how do you perform at your top with sort of, tools, tricks, and things like that. And a lot of it does have to do with mindset, but we can't just change our mind. I know you hear that it's like your thoughts control your actions, but there's a lot of things that go on behind that, and our body holds so much information. So when we're looking to grow and expand in our businesses and in our careers, we tend to think that it's a strategy that's going to get us there. And yes, strategy is really, really important. But if you aren't in the right headspace or the right physical space in your body when we're trying to execute those things, it's going to really be a huge challenge, for you to sustain it. But a lot of times it's the person behind the strategy that's, the bottleneck. It's not the strategy.
So is this like when I have maybe like a project I need to be working on and I just refuse to take that first step and do it? It's just
Yeah.
like, what's holding me back? Why am I refusing to do this? Like I know what I need to do. I just keep putting it on the back burner, putting it on the back burner, doing other tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that procrastination,
Mhm.
we think a lot of times is rooted in a mindset, but it's actually coming from your nervous system. And your nervous system is essentially the bridge between you and the outside world. Our heart rate is an indicator of where you are in your nervous system state. And if when we get stuck in that procrastination state, it's typically something going on there. And so it really doesn't matter if you're giving yourself 8 million affirmations or you're doing all the mindset work. If your nervous system is not in the right state, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to shift.
Ooh, so then what do we do?
Well, there's lots of different things that you can do. Nervous system regulation, which is, this is a kind of a buzzword right now. You hear a lot of this is
Mm.
getting thrown around because there's a lot of education and knowledge that's really starting to come to the forefront. It's being spread all around. So it's not like this is a new thing. It just kind of seems like it's a trendy thing to talk about because people are really just starting to understand it. And I think also the reason too is because subconscious reprogramming and things of that nature are also becoming very mainstream and popularized, which is a part of our nervous system, but it's not the whole picture. And so nervous system regulation is really, it's a lifestyle. Just like we go work out, we can do training for our nervous system. And one of the things that I do is heart rate variability training. And that is a form of breath work, but it's biofeedback breath work. I also teach some other kinds of breath work that are more, I would say, like a journey. But HRV breathwork training that expands our HRV, expands our capacity, is very strategic, very specific, and we track it with data points, which is really exciting, I think, for people who are type A kinds of folks. Yes, you can see that the thing that you're doing is actually working. It's like when
Oh,
we're on a weight loss journey, we want to step on the scale and see a different number. We want to put our jeans on and see a different, smaller number when we're on a journey like that. Well, when we are working on our mindset and our nervous system, you can actually use HRV training to see an actual data point of where your nervous system is. And what's really, really cool about this, you can actually start to track it and attach it to things like improvement in your sales, improvement in your business. When you start to come into a regulated state before you get onto a sales call, you'll actually start to see that your sales conversions improve. So not only will you see your HRV improve, telling you that your nervous system and that you're becoming more healthier, stronger, more resilient in your nervous system, your bank account is also going to show you.
which also makes you just like less stressed and happier and calmer because everything's working
Absolutely.
well. Oh, I love this. So that would be basically, so how are we, is what we're doing here, we're finding a way that we can increase our sales and wealth by regulating the nervous system. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. I mean, there's so many other benefits. I mean, this is the one
Yeah.
people really like to hear about, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I heard. So how did this, I know you kind of went into how you got into this, but I feel like there's a story here on how this all happened for you. How have you used your nervous system to help conquer some things in your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I am a type A person, which some people are like, really? That's true about you? Because I tend to seem like I'm super calm, but it's kind of like a duck, right? Like duck is sliding across the water. But if you were to peek underneath, it's like paddling for its life. And that's kind of been how I've been my entire life, pre learning about nervous system regulation. And it's still actually a journey. And all those things are related to trauma. And I drop that in there, and I like almost hate to use that word now because it's also another buzzword. But we all have versions and forms of trauma in stuck in our body, and they kind of drive us to our patterns. And mine was overworking. I poured myself into work. And so it didn't matter what career I was in, and I pivoted a bunch of times, I would just work a lot. And when I say a lot, I was like really long hours, 6, 7 days a week. Stepping away was like Yeah, right. Take a vacation and not work or, have a weekend off. No way. I can't do that, which really, really started to show up several times in my life, but it really took the third time for it to drive home that is time to make a change. So I found myself walking into a hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. And this was about 5-ish years ago now. And so for context, I am 45 years old. So at 39 years old, I thinking I'm having a heart attack, walking in to an emergency room, and the doctor's like, "You're not having a heart attack. You're having essentially like a panic attack, an anxiety attack. And it's because you are basically not taking care of yourself at all. You're working it too hard. You're completely burnt out and something needs to change." And like I said, this was the third time something like this had happened, just not this severe. And at this point right now, I mean, the fact that it took that is kind of crazy because my hair was falling out. I thought it was something else that was going on with me. I had gained weight that I couldn't get rid of. Didn't matter what I did with my workouts, like all the things, that nothing was working. And it was all coming back to the fact that my body was just like, I am stressed out, freaked out. You're not letting me rest. And it was showing up in all the ways, getting sick all the time, aches and pains, like you name it. And I was edgy and grumpy and mean. And I just was not a pleasurable person to be around. So this was a 2x4 for me. And it just like hit me right across the back, because that's what happens when we don't take the more subtle hints and cues that our body and the universe tries to give us, whatever they happen to be. And so that was my moment of like, okay, like this has got to change. I have a daughter and I want to, I want to see her have children. And I love my family and my dog and all the things. And I don't want to be sitting in a hospital having a heart attack at 39 years old. Because the doctor said to me, he was like, if you don't do something, you will be back here having a heart attack as a 39-year-old woman.
Ouch.
And so that is where it kind of all began. And I dove first into hypnosis, is really where I started. And I actually ended up going through training for myself and became a hypnotherapist after it had such a big impact on me. But that was only scratching the surface. Like it made me feel better and I was doing a pretty good job, but I wasn't quite where I needed to be. I still was like kind of doing this two-step with the patterns, right? Like I'd take a little bit of a step forward, but then I'd regress back and find myself like flirting with burnout again. And then I discovered breath work. And this was not HRV training breath work. This was hypno breath work, which is something that I facilitate. And I love it, absolutely love it. And I think it's great for finding clarity, finding solutions, even for stress relief. But there was still something missing. And so I ended up reading this book that's called Heart or Mind, Body, Breath, I think is actually what it's called. And the woman who wrote it, her name is Lee Lagos. And the book completely shifted and changed the way I looked at stress management, so much so that I actually reached out to her, and I actually have gone to dinner with her a couple of times in New York City. And so I did a couple sessions with her, and it really piqued my interest in understanding how this heart rate variability thing worked. I went through her program and I actually saw such a dramatic shift in my HRV, how I was feeling. Actually during this period, I overcame a tremendous amount of debt. My business grew and I'm a completely changed person. So through that journey, I ended up becoming HRV certified, and and I'm like midway through right now, the somatic experiencing program, which is a 3-year program, really learning how to regulate your nervous system through somatic practices. So all of that gets blended together.
Oh, that's absolutely fascinating. I have one question. Do you remember how was it that book that you ended up picking up? Did someone recommend it? Did it just
I heard it on a podcast.
You heard it on a podcast. Okay. Just curious. That was something I was like, ooh, how the one that changed everything. I love that.
Yeah. Sometimes though, I've had those happen where it's like, I'm just getting ready to run out the door for a flight. I'll walk over to my bookcase, which you see behind me, and I'll be like, and it's really wild how that happens. It's like exactly what you need at that time. This was, I heard she was on a podcast. I heard her talking about it and I was like, this sounds like pretty fascinating. And Tim Ferriss is actually a client of hers. And that was kind of like, I was actually at that time doing a a program for mastering how to basically have a 4-hour workday and be very efficient in your business. After my burnout experience, I was trying to put all these practices into place. And she mentioned that he had been a client, and that kind of piqued my interest. So then I picked up the book, and here we are.
Here we are. Okay. So how are you working with clients right now? I know you do the mastermind. Talk to me about what happens in your mastermind. Like what are you guys focusing on?
The foundations of the mastermind really are nervous system regulation. So a mastermind is obviously very typically business focused. And while we do all sorts of business focused things, the foundational piece is learning how to operate from a regulated place, which can be it's a challenge because it's like, I feel like the good analogy right now is if anybody, I don't know why I keep going back to a weight loss journey, but everybody is like, there's an option to go just get Ozempic, right? And that's amazing. It's really, really great solution for a lot of people. But it's one of those like kind of hacks that you can use to solve your problem. And there's a lot of hacks that we can put into our business to make things work or get results that we want in the very short term. But if we want to create like next level results and you want to do it, it's a marathon and you have to train to run a marathon. And I feel like nervous system regulation is very much that way, but it's not the shiny, flashy thing that people want to work on. It's the like, you have to trust this process and trust that taking 2 steps a little bit backwards, and backwards I think is a bad word, but taking a step back and focusing on this is actually going to be the thing that catapults you forward. And the person who did the hack to your left, they might be, a mile ahead of you next month, but when you look back in a year from now, you're going to be like 50 miles ahead of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the long term versus
Absolutely. And so when we really focus on that, and that's nervous system regulation really is that. And so that's the foundational piece. We kind of hook that up with this idea of being visible, because I think that's a big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs have trouble with is this visibility. It's very dysregulating for our nervous system. So it's a great way to see how when we focus on that regulation and then we do the things that are really hard and uncomfortable for us, how we can use that tool to do that thing that's then going to make us grow.
I love that. And I do. Visibility's been a huge roadblock that I had to conquer earlier on in my business. It's something that I feel like it's talked about a lot on this podcast. I feel like my audience struggles with visibility a lot. Like that's definitely, it's a real thing to feel it. I mean, it's just like imposter syndrome where everyone talks about, you still get the nerves no matter what level you get at in your business. It's just learning to recognize them and those feelings and knowing how to work past them.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. So those are the big things that we focus on inside of the mastermind. Like for instance, this round that I'm running, I have an ex-producer from the Today Show coming in to help everyone inside extract their founder's story and use that. And we'll be working behind the scenes during the journey of like crafting a signature talk, which is great for when you're on podcasts or pitching yourself to speak in whether it's on a stage or in someone's group or whatever, wherever you're looking for an opportunity to share. When we have that in our back pocket, it makes it much easier for us to show up because it's already done. You can expand it and contract it. And so that's another thing that we work on inside.
Oh, I love that. So who's like a really good fit for your mastermind? What kind of entrepreneurs are you working with?
Well, it is a true mastermind in the sense that you're not going to find 10 fitness coaches in there. There are really all kinds of entrepreneurs, from small business owners. Like, let's see, in this coming up round, I have an esthetician, like a not homeopathic, holistic esthetician, a nutrition coach. We have someone who's exiting corporate and starting a business, someone who's staying in corporate but wants to expand, like, move up in her career. I have an insurance agent. We have a real estate agent. Like, it's a true mastermind. We have actually someone from the media in the mastermind as well. So it's legitimately, if you are a female on and a high performer, a high achiever who wants to be able to do more with maybe less, or do more with less, or do more intentionally. I don't think that was very articulate, but basically be able, like, master that 4-hour workday so that you can get maybe even more done than you're doing now, but actually do it in less time with less stress and bigger results.
Oh, I love that. How do you find that people find you? Where do your clients typically come from? I know, and the answer is going to be like all over the place.
Yeah, all over the place. Podcasts just like this are a great way for people to find me because it, exposes me to new and different audiences. I often speak in other masterminds and programs. Social media, although I will say social media is not like the thing that just like pulls them in. I use LinkedIn a lot,
Okay.
and I'm in a lot of networking groups. And so I show up and extend myself inside of those groups.
I have not dabbled a whole lot in LinkedIn. I have stuff that will post there using my post scheduler, but I've gotten some weird spammy, I mean, I get those on all of them, but I've gotten some weird spammy not comments, DMs on there, but that was I'm like, I don't know that my people are on here.
Oh, well, LinkedIn is they're expanding. A lot of people are ditching Instagram to move over to LinkedIn because they're not loving the algorithm situation happening currently on Instagram and LinkedIn. I mean, it's a higher net worth clientele, and people over there are, I think, wanting to engage and have conversations. I think that the vibe is a little different. Like, I feel like on Instagram, when you're having conversations in the DMs, everyone's kind of like has this like weird defense up. And so having a conversation is a little bit can be strained, where it's like, it feels like a friend conversation, even though you're trying to have like a business conversation. But over on LinkedIn, it's kind of like everyone knows that it's like business. And so it's like, hey, do you want to hop on a call? And the expectation is to get to know each other, to see how you might be able to serve each other. But there's also an expectation of like, okay, so do we talk about, like, do you want to work with me, or do I want to work with you, kind of thing?
That's interesting. I like how you look at that. I should probably explore LinkedIn a little more with all the things.
Yes, well, it's growing rapidly, and yeah.
So I want to ask you some questions about the tech and website behind your business, because as a web designer and tech integration person, I love hearing about everyone's like website, all their tech, their favorite tech, some of their experiences. So tell me about your website. Has it always looked the way it does today? Has it had a bajillion iterations like most of us?
Well, under this particular URL, it has looked like just as it is. I had a previous website, and while that one I didn't really iterate, it was just under a different URL. Yeah, no, because this website is actually not that old. It's only about a year old.
There you go. What platform do you use?
It was built on Showit.
Oh, okay.
I have a WordPress blog built on Showit.
And then is there a favorite piece of tech that you use in your business that you're just like, I love this piece of tech so much, and it makes me so happy because I just love it?
Tech is, I get a lot of help with the tech outside of my phone, my iPhone, which I live on and use that as like my primary source of tech, which I could not live without that. And I'm not really sure. I feel like I wish I had a better answer for you.
I think the iPhone works. Acuity is like one of my favorite things. It's so simple. It's just my scheduler, but it runs so much of the back end of my business, and it connects to all the things. Like, it's just every so often I'm like, man, I just love Acuity so much. And I love Loom to do my little recordings. because
Okay.
I'll get a
Yeah,
lot of
now.
clients that have like a question about something, and being able to just make a quick Loom to them, to me, is just so life-changing that we don't have to like hop on a call or, do a bunch of like back and forth or do a lot of screenshots, like being able to just create a Loom video walking through.
Yeah, I love those too, actually, now that you're saying that. And it's funny because I have been thinking of switching over to Acuity. I use Calendly, but even that is, I think just even Calendly is a lifesaver because you have your links for your calls and you just drop them to people all over the place. And it integrates with I use Google Calendar. And I would say tech wise, Google is definitely, I mean, I use Google Drive. It's couldn't live without that. I also use Slack. So a lot, I'm not a Facebook groups person. It doesn't really align with my brand or regulating your nervous system. So I use Slack, and it is so great for just voice noting back and forth with clients that way. It's also great for dropping call replays. I can literally just drag and drop the Zoom right in there. It's,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
I didn't know
really
you
easy.
could do that. Have you ever heard of TidyCal? It's like a Calendly alternative. I just got it, but I haven't looked at it yet. Another podcast guest, Julie Ball, who was on a few episodes back, she had recommended it, and it's on AppSumo. It's like basically a Calendly replacement, but it can do all the things. And it's a one-time, lifetime AppSumo deal. Just
Oh,
kind
you just pay once?
of. Mhm.
That's nice. It's just funny because I use Kajabi inside of like the back end of my business right now, but I'm on this journey of figuring out if I'm going to use Thrivecart. So I bought Thrivecart and I use it
Mhm.
for payments because if you're in Kajabi, it's really annoying how you have to create 5 offers for different payment plans, and then you have to make a sales page to then plug the offers into. And with Thrivecart, you don't have to do that. And that's also a one-time payment versus the $199 recurring every month. So it's like $497 or something. And you can do this upgrade for just $197, and you can have all your courses in there. And again, it's a like all in, whatever that is, like $600, and you never pay
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. I'm in the process of switching all my stuff. Like Member Vault is amazing. I love them. The founders are incredible. Their customer support is just top of the line. But the pull of Thrivecart's one-time payment, I mean, I'm working now on just moving all my stuff over
Yeah.
because I love that. And I've been setting it up for a lot of clients too. Because it just one time, lifetime. Anytime that I can start, ticking off those reoccurring annual payments and switching to lifetime.
Yeah. It's really funny because my mindset around is like I'm like, it's $199, whatever, no big deal. But when you start looking at everything, I mean, we use other little tech pieces, right? You get when you're editing your podcast, your autophonic cost, your hosting fee, Canva fee, Zoom fee, and all these little like what feel like nothing at the end of the day. Then you're like $1,000 in on your business, and you're like, how can I start to like trim that
Yeah.
back a little bit? And when it's something like a Thrivecart, with the like easy payment situation, hands down, and you can make beautiful sales pages
Mhm.
from there. And while I get, Kajabi has the like all like the back end stuff, the thing is everyone's now sending their emails from Flowdesk because they look so much nicer. And Flowdesk is $400 for the whole year or something like that. And so you can, it's just like lower your monthly recurring fees by, it's a couple $1,000 a year.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, I love it. See, this is why I always ask the tech questions, because it's fun. I could geek out on this all day long, but
Well,
I'm
I
not going to
didn't
do
know,
that
but
to
I
you.
can too, as it turns out. And I got really excited about it. Should we keep talking about it? Like, oh my gosh, what else can we talk about?
You want to talk more tech? We could talk more tech. um, Actually, I will talk a little more tech. One of the things that I've been really trying to get clients, so I build the websites for them. And then when we get to like, okay, now next step, we need to be doing more marketing, and how can we automate more things on the back end? So like one of my top blog posts, funny enough, is you can send your Zoom calls automatically, the recordings automatically to Vimeo. And it was like amazing. Yeah. Right. It was amazing when I found that out. It was just like a little tick box to like connect things. I have a blog post on it. I can send it to you.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
link it up in the show notes. It's like my top performing blog post on my Google Analytics.
Okay, so then you're about to clear something out. This is really interesting. So could you, because I remember this person told me this a long time ago. They use Asana for client interaction, and I use that with one of my team members. We use it to go, like manage. But this coach had told me that she had Asana set up so that it was basically set up so that each client had their own little like private little home,
Okay.
and that all the calls got automatically uploaded for them.
Probably with this app. I don't think there's a
Huh.
built-in integration, but
Okay, so then with this, you have to go back, and so it automatically takes it. Does it delete it then for you so that it's not, or
no,
you have to go and delete it from Zoom
you
yourself?
still
And so
have to
it's like at
go.
the end of the week, you just got to do a cleanup.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm on an older Vimeo account because like now I know the newer Vimeo accounts are a little more limited on like how many videos you can upload on the lower plans and like your space and all that. I'm on an older plan that gives me like a weekly limit, not a lifetime limit. So it just auto sends it all over there. So for me, it's kind of a backup because I end up downloading my stuff right off of Zoom and putting it into a folder so then I can go edit the podcast and everything. But then I know I have a copy of it on Vimeo as well. But then also for all my sales calls, I have those all, or any client call, I record everything. And so it
Wow.
just automatically goes to Vimeo. And so again, before I used to download it from Zoom, upload it to Vimeo, delete it out of Zoom. Now I can just go into Zoom and hit delete, 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 or check all delete.
That's a lot of steps that you get to not do. That's
Yeah, that's like my favorite thing is finding ways to make it simpler
yeah.
and
Oh my
automating the
gosh.
things. So yes, that was fun little tangent. Okay, we're going to go back to talking more about business.
Okay. Well, we were like knee deep in business. That's all very important business.
It is very important. I would love to know what would you say is like one of the biggest challenges that you've overcome since starting your business?
The biggest challenge is, I mean, well, debt was, and my own personal relationship with money, I think probably is the biggest. Yeah, that and my getting over my workaholic sort of
Yeah.
nature,
Yeah.
which aren't really like business things. But I think that's the thing about entrepreneurship is that all the issues that we face in business are usually our own stuff. It's not typically, I mean, and even when it appears like it's an actual business problem, most of the time it's a you problem.
Yep. Because it's all intertwined. Back when we were corporate, it's very different because you can kind of like 5 o'clock on Friday, turn off corporate and go into your life versus now
Yeah.
with entrepreneurship. We're just, I mean, I know my brain's on constantly thinking all these different things, writing all these emails while I'm in the shower and like coming up with all these ideas. It just never
Yeah.
shuts off.
I know we have to learn how to like channel it though and give yourself some space. It is so funny though, because it's like the minute you go, you're like, I'm just gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go take a walk and step away. And then you do, and then your mind just is like, whew, all the ideas, all the downloads start coming through.
Yep, exactly. We live at the beach. So I'm like 4 houses from the sand. So I'm out walking on the beach all the time with the dog. Like there's a lot of good stuff that comes from all my walks during the day that I just love. But
Oh
it's
my
a lot of
goodness.
fun. What would you say that you're doing in the industry that is being bold?
Mm, what am I doing? Well, I think that focusing on being a good human being is a rather bold thing these days. No, I kid. I just say there's a lot of, I think, unethical things that happen within the coaching industry, and I always kind of like joke, not joke about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that focusing on nervous system regulation as a first, like leading with that is actually pretty bold because there's not a tremendous amount of understanding. Like I'm fighting a little bit of an uphill battle of having to really educate everyone. And it is an experiential thing. So that's definitely a challenge. And I think it's a bold statement to say that that's the thing that is actually translating into an ROI on your business. but it's also kind of exciting because I have data that supports it.
Oh, I love that. Data is so fun. I can geek out on data all day long. Type A all the way. So we are getting close to our time. I
Yeah.
could just sit and talk about this all day, especially if we want to geek out on tech even more.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I have one question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone when they are growing and scaling their business that would help them be bolder, be louder, and make waves in business?
The There's actually no one is your competition. And when you put your blinders on and focus on you showing up and being 1% better every day, scaling your business, making an impact and being bold, I think just becomes a way of being.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic advice. Corene, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you tell our listeners where they can come find you, hang out with you, all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram for sure. LinkedIn, now that we were talking about LinkedIn. So if you're over there, come find me, say hello on LinkedIn as well. Yeah. Or Instagram. I'm on both of those platforms pretty regularly. Um, I actually just love to gift this to your audience. I have a breathwork nervous system regulation portal. And it's basically this like library of hypnosis, breath work, and a lot of other nervous system regulation tools. And I'd love to gift your audience 30 days of that. They can come in and check it out and see how that impacts their nervous system, how they feel.
Oh, awesome. I will drop the link for that in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today. This was so much fun.
Such a pleasure. I appreciate you so much. I had such a good time.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out the show notes at lauracomark.com/podcast. And if you're ready to turn your website into a marketing machine, get more sales, save time, and simplify the back end of your business, grab my free resource, Power Integrations for your website. Head on over to lauracomark.com/power. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe. And also, I'll just love you forever if you leave me a review. It helps get this podcast in front of other people that can help inspire. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye now.